Good afternoon, everyone. Does that sound okay? All right, now opening the February 21st, 2025 special meeting of the Santa Rosa City Schools Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you everyone for being here. We are going to start with public comment on the agenda item only. However, because this meeting is essentially a continuation of what we weren't able to finish on Wednesday night, I'm going to really limit public comment since we heard a lot on Wednesday. I'm only going to take 20 minutes of public comment, 1 minute each. I'm going to rotate or alternate between students and non-students. I'll call 3 names at a time. Podium over here. All right, so if you hear your name, please line up behind the podium. First is Leah Gruel, followed by Alexa Forrester, followed by Mike Asensio. Or did I read that wrong? Leah Gabriel. I have your card, sir, yes. Leah?
Okay.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Lía Rubí Gabriel, soy estudiante de LC Allen High School y vengo en representación de todos aquellos que no pudieron venir gracias a que esta junta se hizo a las 3 de la tarde en un día escolar con el fin de que ni alumnos ni maestros pudieran venir, pero aquí estamos. Con el permiso de los padres de familia, tutores y cuidadores que nos dieron su bendición para poder llegar hasta aquí en bus público, ya que todos tienen que trabajar para poder sacarnos adelante y no nos pueden traer. La escuela El CIALE necesita permanecer abierta, ya que si la cierran, muchos de los estudiantes que están ahí se pondrán a trabajar, ya que no tienen la oportunidad ni el presupuesto para poder viajar desde su casa hasta otra escuela más lejos. He escuchado con mis propios oídos que los padres estarían haciendo un esfuerzo inhumano para poder llevar a sus hijos a otras escuelas. Así que los hijos al ver esto deciden ponerse a trabajar y esto directa o indirectamente afecta y es una violación a los derechos de los estudiantes. Muchas gracias.
She was very courteous and even provided me with the translation. Good afternoon. My name is Leah Ruby Gabriel. I'm a student at LC Allen High School. I come to represent all those who could not come, thanks to the fact that this meeting was held at 3 p.m. on a school day, so that neither students nor teachers can come, but here we are. With the permission of parents, guardians, caregivers who give us their blessing, we could get here by public bus since everyone had to work to support us and they could not bring us. The LC Allen School needs to remain open because if they close it, many of the students there will have to go to work since they don't have the opportunity or the budget to travel from their home to another school farther away. I've heard with my own ears that parents will be making an inhuman effort to be able to take their children to another school. So when children see this, they decide to go to work, or this directly or indirectly affects and is a violation of the students' rights. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Alexa Forrester, followed by Mike Asensio, followed by David Benjamin Grunbaum.
Hello, whatever you decide today, we are closing 6 schools and shifting to a 7 through 12 model. And we are here to find out if you're going to give us an additional challenge in addition to those 6 schools. Neither of the scenarios you are considering, the 3-3-1 nor the 3-3 pause, will lead to good educational outcomes. Neither will foster safe, supportive learning environments. And importantly, neither will lead to long-term fiscal stability. That is why the only way forward at this point is a resolution to endorse a 3-3-0 with a 3-4-0 as a final backstop, taking closing high schools off the table entirely. Our high school students and the 7th and 8th graders who will be joining them deserve the stability of knowing that you are choosing to invest in their schools permanently. If finances are not improving in a year, we do not reopen the high school discussion. Instead, we keep doing the hard work of incrementally increasing revenue, decreasing costs, and removing inadequate leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mike Asensio, followed by David Benjamin Grunbaum, followed by Luis Eduardo Casillas Ambriz. Is Mike Asensio here?
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Mike Anthony Asensio Rivera y estoy representando la escuela LC Allen High School. Vengo a ustedes hoy para compartirles cuánto puede afectar su decisión de esta tarde, no solo para 1,004 estudiantes, sino para toda la comunidad del suroeste. No cierran la única escuela ubicada en el lado más pobre y minoritario de Santa Rosa. Ya caminamos kilómetros en días lluviosos o días de calor insoportable. No tenemos el privilegio de que nos lleven a las escuelas todas las mañanas porque nuestros padres trabajan. El Allen es nuestro camino hacia nuestros sueños. Nuestros padres alguna vez tuvieron estos sueños, pero no renunciar, tuvieron que renunciar para que nosotros, sus hijos, podamos soñar en grande. Por favor, mantenga abierta la escuela Elsie Allen.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Dr. Morales. I come to you today to share how much your decision this evening can not only affect just the 1,004 students, but the entire Southwest community. Don't close the only school located in the poorest, minority, and underprivileged side of Santa Rosa. We are already walking miles on rainy or excruciatingly hot days. We are not privileged to have a ride to school every morning because our parents need to work. LCLN is our pathway to our dreams. Our parents once had these dreams, but needed to give them up so that we, their children, could dream even bigger. Please keep LCLN High School open.
Thank you. Next is David Benjamin Greenbaum, followed by Luis Eduardo Casillas Ambriz, followed by Andy Bunnell.
R&B, rushed and botched. That's how I would define the way the district has handled the whole school closure issue. How is the board supposed to make proper decisions when every day there are new proposals and major missing data? Everyone here wants LC Allen to survive, but we also can't be back here in a few months trying to save a sinking school district ship because the board made a poor decision today based on incomplete information. We at Montgomery High School were the first ones to step up and say we would welcome 7th and 8th grade students into our IB program, and we'll be working hard all summer to be ready for the fall. So I'm sure you can understand why the Montgomery community is concerned about the current 3-3 pause plan. How outrageous is it that we would be on the chopping block again in just under a year? Absolutely unacceptable. So trustees, if you can't find a way to make sure this plan is absolutely financially prudent and also to assure us that Montgomery is safe, please don't vote on the plan today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Luis Eduardo Casillas Ambriz, followed by Andy Bunnell, followed by Marlon Gabriela Menjivar Ochoa.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Luis Eduardo y primero que nada quiero agradecer a todos ustedes por dar la oportunidad al CIALEN de hacer valer nuestra voz. La base de datos del CD muestra que la inscripción del CIALEN High School disminuyó un 2,5% frente a la disminución del 13% para Montgomery y una disminución del 17,8% para la escuela secundaria Santa Rosa. Se los dejo que lo piensen. Nuevamente, el señor Nick, señor Mark y la señora Sara le dicen a la comunidad de Southwest por qué quieren cerrar el Allen. Puede ser una relación con María Carrillo, señor Mark, con Montgomery, señora Sara, Nick con César Chávez. Les suplico, escuchen los datos y elijan la decisión justa. Gracias.
That was Eduardo from LC Allen. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. The CDE database shows that LC Allen enrollment declined 2.5% versus 13% for Montgomery and 17.8% decline for Santa Rosa High School. Let that sink in. Again, Mr. Nick, Mr. Mark, and Mrs. Sarah, tell the Southwest community why you want to close LC Allen. Can it be your relationship with Maria Carrillo, Mr. Mark, or Montgomery, Mrs. Sarah, or possibly finding a secure site for CCLA, Mr. Nick? I plead with you, listen to the data and choose equity over bias.
Thank you. And again, as I said, I'm alternating between students and non-students. So next is Andy Bunnell, followed by Marlon Gabriela Menjivar Ochoa, followed by Dwayne DeWitt.
Hi, I'm Andy Bunnell. Hopefully I'm not screwing this up because I'm reading for a student that I work with, but hello board and thank you for this, for your time. My name is Makai Parker and I'm part of the Counseling Enriched program at LC Allen High School. I've been attending LC Allen for 6 months. I've grown accustomed to the school as a new transfer student. I don't want to change schools already. This school has been going well for me because I'm part of the Counseling Enrichment Program, or SEP for short. This program has helped me to get accustomed to the school Elsie Allen. This program has also helped me be better in the classroom and in school in general. I also ride my bike to school as my parents both work. I feel like riding my bike 5 to 6 miles would be draining. Having to wake up early enough in the morning to commute across town, hopefully beating traffic so students can get to school on time. Riding your bike or walking 5 to 6 miles a day can cause the mental health of students to decline, affecting the performance of the students in class, possibly leading the said student to fail in school. It would be a poor decision to close LC, considering the fact that LC has a percentage of students have come from low-income families or multilingual.
Sorry,
learners
sir, your
or
time is
city
up.
Special education service.
Thank you. Next is Marlon Gabriela Menjivar Ochoa, followed by Dwayne DeWitt, followed by Carol Noriega.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Marlene Gabriela Mengíbar Ochoa, soy estudiante de LCL. Señora Sara, desearía que mis padres como usted tuvieran tiempo para ayudar a protestar como que los CRO estén en los campus para planificar y alertar a otros padres y miembros de la comunidad a asistir a una marcha de llamado a la acción entre semana. Sin embargo, muchos de nuestros padres, tutores y familiares en su suroeste tienen que tener 1 o 2 trabajos para poner comida en la mesa. Como líder de la junta directiva de Santa Rosa City High School, lo alentamos que también continúe en la apasionada participación comunitaria que comparte en Montgomery, en el suroeste de Santa Rosa. Ven y conoce dentro de escena a Elsie Allen High School. Mantenga a Elsie Allen abierta.
Good afternoon. My name is Marla Menjivar, a student of Elsie Allen High School. I wish my parents, like you, had time to help protest for SROs to be on campuses or to plan or encourage other parents and community members to attend a weekday call to action march. However, many of our parents, guardians, and families in the Southwest have to work 1 or 2 jobs to put food on the table. As leader of the SRCS Board of Directors, we encourage you to pursue the passionate community involvement you share with Montgomery and the Southwest of Santa Rosa too. Come get behind the scenes of Elsie Allen High School and keep Elsie Allen High School open.
Thank you. Next is Dwayne DeWitt, followed by Carol Noriega, followed by Erica Lipanovich.
Hello, my name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland. Thank you to all your volunteers. Please continue this matter and rethink your decision-making process. 56 years ago, Cook Junior High School switched to double sessions to save money. It worked 5 hours in the morning, 5 hours in the evening, 1 to 6. Many students were able to continue their education. Nothing was closed down and things worked really well. The Southwest needs to have even more education. Keep Elsie Allen. Keep Lobos. I'm on time. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Carol Noriega, followed by Erica Lipanovich, followed by Nicole Noriega.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Carol Noriega y soy estudiante del CIALEN. Señor Mark, esperaba más de ti. Usted ha demostrado habilidades de liderazgo excepcionales. En sus varios años como presidente y vicepresidente del Booster Club sin fines de lucro 501C3 en María Carrillo y como nuevo miembro de la Junta Directiva de Santa Rosa City School, me pregunto, ¿por qué un líder como usted no está dispuesto a ayudar a magnificar nuestra inscripción? Nosotros también queremos ser líderes. Nosotros también tenemos esperanzas y sueños.
Mr. Mark, I expected more from you. You have demonstrated exceptional leadership skills in your several years as president and vice president of the nonprofit 501c3 Booster Club in Maria Carrillo and as a new member of the SRCS Board of Directors. Why is a leader like you not willing to help magnify our enrollment? We want to be leaders. We also have hopes and dreams.
Next is Erica Leponovic, followed by Nicole Noriega, followed by Megan Covey.
Hello, esteemed board. Erica Leponovich. I agree that we absolutely need to be fiscally responsible, and I pray that we are presented by SCO with a path forward that allows us to keep all our high schools open without simply putting us back here next year. Trustee Caston, your comments about attendance on Wednesday got me thinking. As a clinician who has practiced family medicine in Santa Rosa, I thought the school note that I provided my patients absolved them from their absence, but I realize now that any absence, excused or not, does not put money into our district's pocket. I believe there's a huge opportunity to partner with our major health centers across Santa Rosa to discuss the importance of offering afternoon and weekend appointments to our school-aged patients. Thank you. Dr. Rideout and I have already initiated this conversation with Santa Rosa Community Health and Kaiser Permanente. I encourage all healthcare providers to join us by making scheduling system changes and educating our clinicians about the importance of sending kids back to school when medically appropriate. I know we will see improvements in attendance, and therefore our revenue in the district will improve. Let's work together with our healthcare partners, and as a community, we can do this.
Thank you. Next is Nicole Noriega, followed by Megan Covey, followed by Dayanara Padilla.
Hola, mucho gusto. Mi nombre es Nicole Noriega. Señor Nick, publicaste que estabas listo para remangarte y trabajar como miembro oficial de la Junta Directiva de las Escuelas de la Ciudad de Santa Rosa el 21 de diciembre de 2024. Soy estudiante de la escuela secundaria Elsie Allen y como dijiste, yo también merezco aprender en un ambiente seguro, de apoyo y estimulante. Ese es mi refugio. La escuela secundaria Elsie Allen es un ambiente seguro, de apoyo y estimulante para todos los que vivimos en el suroeste de Santa Rosa. Señor Nick, usted ha compartido que está comprometido a trabajar mano a mano con los padres, los maestros, el personal y toda la comunidad, pero nunca lo conocí. Ha asistido antes a la escuela secundaria Elsie Allen y si ese no es el caso, lo invito a venir y ver nuestra escuela construida por la comunidad. Ven a nosotros y trabaja mano a mano para descubrir cómo tú puedes colaborar como lo haces en nuestra escuela vecina. Hashtag educación, hashtag comunidad, hashtag haciendo diferencia. Gracias.
That message was from Nicole Noriega, also from Elsie. Mr. Nick, you shared publicly that you were ready to roll up your sleeves and serve as an official member of the Santa Rosa City School Board of Directors on December 21st, 2024. I'm a student at Elsie Allen High School, and as you said, I deserve to learn in a safe, supportive, and stimulating environment, which is my refuge, my place of safety. Elsie Allen High School is a safe, supportive, and nurturing environment for all of us who live in the southwest of Santa Rosa. Mr. Caston, you have shared that you are committed to working hand in hand with parents, teachers, staff, and the entire community, but I've never met you. Have you ever attended at high school, Elsie Allen High School before? It is not the case, and I invite you to come and see our community-built school. Come to us and work hand in hand to discover you can collaborate like you do at our neighboring school. Hashtag education, hashtag community, hashtag making a difference.
Next is Megan Covey, followed by Dayanara Padilla, and then we'll see if we have time after that.
Hi, my name is Megan Covey. I work at Slater Middle School as a 7th grade math teacher. The district, not board, district's lack of transparency about how the 7 through 12 model will actually look like is unacceptable. Yesterday, we learned that if Slater closed, only 340 of our students can move to Monty. This decision was deliberately withheld from us and will shatter our community. Slater's more than a school, it's a home. Our staff is the backbone of our success, and separating us will have lasting and damaging effects. Students rely on trusted teachers and a stable environment, yet we have no clear answers on how staffing, programs, or student support will look. On top of that, expecting teachers to push a cart from room to room instead of having a dedicated classroom is unacceptable. Having a classroom is more than just 4 walls. It's a space where students feel safe and supported. Taking that away diminishes learning. Teachers need their own classrooms. We lack a strong leadership at our school. We do not trust our admin to make capable decisions.
Your time is up. Next is Dayanara Padilla.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Dayanara Padilla Henchi. Soy el estudiante a quien ustedes, señor Nick, señor Mark y señora Sara, le están tumbando las alas. Vengo de Elsie Allen High School, la escuela donde supuestamente nadie quiere mandar a sus estudiantes. ¿Quiere saber cuánto tiempo me tomó para llegar a esta reunión? Tomé 2 autobuses públicos. Estuve en la parada del autobús público con mis compañeros desde la 1 de la tarde. Mi hermana no pudo asistir porque tiene que trabajar, pero me dio su bendición y permiso para venir a representar a todos aquellos del suroeste de Santa Rosa quienes no pudieron asistir. Acuérdate de mí, yo soy la cara de Elsie Allen High School. Yo soy del suroeste de Santa Rosa. Mi futuro está en tus manos. Gracias.
Ms. Dayanara would like to say, I'm the student that you, Mr. Nick, Mr. Mark, and Miss Sarah are knocking down. I come from Elsie Allen High School, where no one supposedly wants to send their students. Do you want to know how long it took me to get to this meeting? I took 2 public buses from the public bus stop with my colleagues at 1 in the afternoon. My sister could not attend because she had to work, but she gave me her blessing and permission to come and represent all those in Southwest Santa Rosa who could not attend. Remember me. I am the face of Elsie Allen High School. I am Southwest Santa Rosa. My future is in your hands.
All right, one more person, Logan Caper.
Middle school is tough. As our kids become young adults at our middle schools, we offer them everything we can to keep them loving school and to reinforce their love of learning. At Slater, we have specialized facilities for athletics, our full slate of music classes, drama class, culinary class, industrial tech, shop class, arts, dance, science, biodiversity. What's going to happen to these programs in the interest of merging our schools? Our district personnel have said that we're going to have to get creative for a few years to make this work. Getting creative means losing these programs, losing the very things that we have that keep kids coming to school. Are we going to keep our families if we have nothing to offer them other than stressed teachers moving from classroom to classroom on carts, teaching in portables with none of the extras that can make middle school interesting and joyful for our students? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So that concludes public comment. We will get back to our discussion. I'm very sorry, but we took public comment on Wednesday and we need to come to a decision today. So trustees, we ended in a deadlock Wednesday night. Is there anyone who has new thoughts today? Take trustee Cannon and then trustee Delatorre. Caston, why do I keep calling you that? I'm sorry.
At this point, words are difficult. So I greatly appreciate SCO being here. And in the interest of moving our conversation without additional presentations to begin with, I would like to introduce what I believe could be a way forward for us. I re-listened to and took to heart the words that Trustee Delatorre, McNally, and Maneri said on Wednesday night, and equally went back and worked with the stakeholders throughout Santa Rosa and throughout all of our schools' communities, and believe that we are all trying to balance the best interests of each and every one of our students. I also went back and reviewed and worked with staff on the constraints and concerns about multiple aspects of some of the scenarios we were looking at in all regards. And I hope what I am about to say can bring us to a discussion that moves forward. In 2 parts, because what we have left to talk about today is our secondary education system, because we took the votes to close Albert Biella, Steel Lane, and Brook Hill on Wednesday, which is a decision that I wish we had had more time to spend on. And hopefully we can talk about it and the impact on those communities after we find a way forward for the rest of the district. Looking at the secondary in 2 parts. This is a way forward that would not result in the closure of Elsie Allen High School. It's a way forward that would restructure Elsie Allen High School to use a problem-based learning and experiential methodology for their instructional styles, which is a type of education that we do not currently offer within our district. It would incorporate the university center, the public health track, and the public safety track that are currently very successful. It would propose new comprehensive maps for the 26-27 school year, and similar to our actions with Steel Lane, provide a phasing and prioritization for transfer opportunities in year one to students who would have new comprehensive neighborhood maps, while also providing a prioritization option for those in Southwest Santa Rosa to be able to transfer into and stay in the really structured Elsie Allen High School. On the 7-8, we would have we would return to a 2-year phasing where, and considering information about constraints, we would look to have Santa Rosa Middle move to Santa Rosa High as a 7-12 program in year one. And through corrected and accurate information that I greatly appreciate, the Montgomery capacity space that was discussed throughout the community of being only 340 spots was in fact the busing needs number for Montgomery in year one, and the capacity of roughly 550 spaces in year one would be available to move the entire community, including the French American Charter School in year one, making Montgomery the other 7-12 in year one with their existing facilities. And then in year two, Comstock would be the one that closes to address the capacity issues at Piner that would need to be addressed in order to bring that in. As a part of this proposal, similar to the specific programs that were discussed with the Elsie Allen restructure, we would be specifically looking at woodshop and culinary programs for the 7-8 students at the Montgomery campus, as those are the unique facilities that would be needing to transition. That is the overview, and I have lots of comments, but I want to focus on the solution the way forward. And so I will ask for thoughts and questions and discussion.
Thank you, Director Caston. Thank you, community, for being here. I do apologize that this meeting this afternoon is even necessary. I apologize that a new plan is now coming forward at the 11th and a half hour, not into the 11th hour. And it's a plan with accommodations that a lot of hard work has gone into in the last 48 hours to try and even see what was possible, because every single one of these trustees and the community was not comfortable with the options that we were looking at. So I appreciate that aspect and cannot implore enough the gratitude to our staff to try and find ways to make other means possible. My message to start is to the board directly and to the community and to the disheartening perceptions of the community that we are a split board and that we are a new board versus an old board, and that we do not all share the same vision in unity to provide the best opportunities possible to educate our students throughout the city of Santa Rosa. The moment we took the oath of our seats, we became the Santa Rosa City School Board. Whether you took that oath 2 days ago, 2 months ago, or 6 years ago, we are the Santa Rosa City School Board, each and every one of us. And when we inherited that, we inherited all the decisions that came along with it before us, good, bad, and indifferent. along with the challenges. So we need to own those. We need to respect those. And we need to be unified in having active conversations moving forward on how are we going to do better? How do we present ourselves better? How do we communicate better? Even during the painful, tough conversations that we don't want to have. We cannot open with a unified decision out of the gate without having an active conversation. There are 6 minds today to work on this problem as trustees. And once this process is closed, we'll be back to a full 7-member board to work on the continued issues. Because I can tell you no matter how long you're in this seat, these problems don't get any easier to solve. And the way public education is funded is on a lot of hope and wishes and hoping that it'll work out. We actually do our funding models on projections, on hoping what will actually happen and through best efforts. And then we got to see what actually happens with those students. I loved hearing that if you can get your attendance up at LC by 4%, there's an amazing amount of numbers there. So I don't want that only on LC Allen and their staff to figure that out. That should be the goal of the district across the board, to make sure us as trustees are directing our staff to make sure we are involved in providing opportunities and following up on if those opportunities are working to raise enrollment for all of our campuses and actual attendance. To answer those questions of why an unexcused absence doesn't count, there's a lot of legislative work that can go into this that we can direct and advocate for to make sure we have better funding models for the future of education. These aren't heart-driven decisions. These aren't pragmatic decisions. That is a collaboration of all of our efforts to make the right decision moving forward. These seats not only represent our mind and ideologies, but the mind and ideologies of all of our constituents. And we are responsible, regardless of our area, for the entire district of Santa Rosa. So we reach out to all of our campuses, all of our communities. And any community hurt is a community hurt by all of us. I appreciate your opening, Director Caston. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss further option and hope that this board can come together to get through the hard things and show a better unified front to the community that we are not an old board versus new board, but that we are the board of education for the city of Santa Rosa, and that we will do better for ourselves and most importantly for our students.
I saw trustee Jenkins and then trustee Manieri's hands.
About the new idea. It's about athletics, both for the middle combination to the 7-12 combination. I'm so sorry. I'm so fried. Just the athletics for middle school, as well as continued athletics for the high schools that will likely be condensed. My words are completely failing me today. I'm sure everyone
understand the
can relate. But yes, because I had heard in one of the many meetings and many hours about the possibility of using the previous facilities for athletics. So just wondering, kind of flushing that out.
I understand the question. Appreciate the trouble with words. I think many of us have been working for many hours at this point. So I'm gonna state, and hopefully staff just corrects me if I'm wrong, but let me restate, because there's a lot of conversations going into into what I said. The vision for athletics for 7-12 campuses is that there is a 7-8 program that is thoroughly connected into a freshman sports team program that does not currently exist. The reality of the steps in year 1 and 2, as we work towards that vision, is that there will need to be vans, there will need to be work in order to support the sports programs that will continue after our strategic planning process. And the logistics of when we get there is going to be, as with many of the programs that are not specifically referenced earlier, a part of the strategic planning process that we are going to be engaging on. And it's hard to add certainty to it because of all of the things that we had to work to bring certainty for. And this is one of the places that certainty is going to need to rely, as Director De La Torre said, on our ability to come together in a strategic planning process to realize that vision of unified sports programs and bringing that freshman program in similar to our neighboring districts. And as someone who really supports that middle school sports element, I am in faith leaving that not in the motion to get to where we need to be today, knowing that very shortly that strategic planning process will be where we talk about that.
Just to follow up on that. So when we're talking about strategic plans, are we diving right into strategic plan, or is this something that happens at the staff thing? I just want to have kind of as much of a clear picture as we can.
So with a strategic planning process, it involves the entire community. So very much like we built our SCAT community forum representations, we would have a representation from each of the schools and as well as administrators and the team that actually makes all of this happen. So it's going to be a big group. So the idea is to put out the scope and the purpose very outlined in terms of what we want by maybe beginning of April so that people can sign up and we can have a preliminary meeting in June so that we can really start the work in August. Or maybe mid-July, depending. We'd have to see who in the committee can meet during July, but the idea is to begin almost immediately.
So it took us 8 months to get to this process. And again, we're presenting a new plan that sounds pretty good to a lot of people, and we're going to keep talking about it. I do have an extreme frustration with the thought process of starting a strategic plan to make this work in August. This has to start right away, whatever that needs to look like. We cannot tell our families that we are going to do something new and different, and we don't have a plan on how that's going to be successful. It is human nature to avoid what is unknown and different. And if we lose a conservative 400 students to attrition because in our middle schools that we're repositioning because they are not comfortable with the 7-12 model, that's $8.8 million we're losing. So we need to be very clear about how this moves forward. And we are not wasting time. We're not taking surveys. We're not polling out to the public. We need to work on this now to make sure we have a plan that's going to work, or our families are not going to send students to something new unless we have a better representation of what that may look like. So I understand. I heard the words April, June, August. We need to fast track that so that we can put the work in sooner so we can actually tell our families what they can expect.
Trustee Caston.
In order for us to stay focused on this item before us, could we agendize the strategic planning process for our first meeting in March? After the first public hearing, there was a very large list of ideas that were presented, including many by me that were reported in the paper, all of which, as a part of getting to here, was asked to be in the strategic planning process. And I agree we need to move quicker. I also think that if we move to talking about that now, we can lose focus on this. So can we agendize it for the first meeting in March? And that's my request.
Trustee Kirby.
So again, the reason we're here is because of the fiscal part of this. So I want to hear from the staff if this new plan is fiscally sound and gets us to where we need to be.
Logistics over here to get the microphone close enough. Thank you, Trustee Kirby. If it's at the pleasure of the board, I will share the slides that we've put together so we can provide an overview, and I'll specifically address how we believe that we can get there. I know, I'm trying to
Trustees, you
figure
can
out
see it on
what's
your
showing where
computer.
also. Oh, is there bad glare? Is that? Oh. Oh, okay. Yes. Huh?
Turn it,
Yeah.
there we go, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
On your, it's on your computer.
Okay. So I wanted to have this up here just as a reminder in case we go through, as we go through any questions related to this. As with any of the scenarios, we are looking at the difference between what's a positive, a negative, or a qualified. And we believe that the best way forward is with a qualified in the short term to get us to a long-term better fiscal status. With a lack, there are a few things. With a decision today, we will still need to provide more notices on the preliminary side, with the expectation that as we go through this process and determine what that looks like coming back, those will be pulled back between March and May, very strategically based on what is decided to move forward with what that new structure, exactly what the implementation looks like. It is much less than what it would be without a decision today. I want to clarify that and be very, very clear that yes, we will be providing more notices than are probably needed in the long term, but it provides us with the space to determine how we can do it in a fiscally responsible way. And it's still less than what it would be if the board were to have what happened the other night, where we don't have a decision and clear direction for us to move forward. It will require more borrowing or transferring of interest, so that dollar amount is higher in the short term. Again, we expect that in the long term, we are going to be in a much better fiscal position, and that all of that will be able to be transferred back into the bond fund. Those are unrestricted funds that can be used. It was our goal not to use them in operations. So just a reminder of the conversations that we've had around that. I'm trying to remember the other. I'm sorry. It's been as all of you, there have been many. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I think everyone's brains are really tired. And so I think maybe this is just a checking of my understanding, Lisa. It sounds like we're doing something that the community's been asking us to do that we haven't maybe done in the ways in which we could have. And it sounds like we are, rather than trying to solve this issue simply by cutting, we are actually investing because we know that has greater outcomes in the future. Is that?
We can't invest dollars that we don't have. However, what we can do is focus the resources that we have, rather than duplicating everything across the board, trying to do everything everywhere. So it's really about tightening in the resources to be able to take a pause, not a pause for implementation, but to take a step back in our thinking and how in planning and implementation, so that we do it right. It's
I see.
That's really what we're looking at, is giving the space to have it ready for next year by not trying to over commit and leaving opportunities open, because we do expect that we would expect that there would be a recommendation to the board related to charter authorizations. There are things that, depending on board action over the next couple of weeks, that we can potentially include in revenue projections at second interim based on specific actions. So being very strategic about how we build next year's budget and how we plan for that by in the short term saying, okay, we're pulling back and taking a really hard look at where we can make adjustments and add back, basically pulling down to our baseline. That's going to require our LCAP being revised because that's one area that there are things that we've planned to do that will have to shift in ways to support our unduplicated pupils.
Got it.
There are things of that nature that it's an overall relook at our budget that we wouldn't normally be doing in the going into the second year of an LCAP. We will likely be, revising substantially the goals and actions based on the community input that we're receiving through this process. And that's really the intention. I
Thank you.
hope that
No,
that
it
helped
does.
the
Yeah,
answer.
it does. Thank you.
It also does require, as well as we spoke about before the other day, related to the 6-period day versus the 7-period day. There are pieces that the things that we spoke about the other day don't change. That still has to happen.
And this was, I know you said SCO was here in the audience.
Yes, we-
Oh, just wanted, so this was also discussed with them. They're on board. They understand what we're doing here, correct? And
So if at the board's pleasure, we can introduce our scope partners and can share what our discussions and processes.
Yes, I'd appreciate that.
Okay. And I do want to say that I'm very appreciative of SCO taking the time yesterday to meet as well, to recap kind of what happened the other night so that, understanding where we were. So I'll introduce, we have Dr. Carter, Greg Medici, and Sarah Lampenfeld.
Of course, just
Thank you for having us. And just as a reminder for the board, the Sonoma County Office of Education has a responsibility to verify and authenticate the budget. We have state responsibility to make sure that you're fiscally solvent 3 years out. We serve as a thought partner, but we do not make decisions, of course, about your spending. And I know that Lisa and my team here have been in constant contact in the preparation of this plan. And I'll turn it over to my CFO, Greg Medici, to add anything to that.
Director Kirby, was there a specific element that you wanted to cover or?
well, I mean, yesterday we were told there was some new information that couldn't be shared, and 2 days ago, gosh, yeah. I don't know if that information is available to be shared in public, or there was that. Plus, again, I was mainly just asking that since you were here, that you had been involved in the process, more aware of what we're planning to do here.
Thank you for that
Potentially.
clarification. Yeah, there is no new information. All the information that SRCS staff has shared is the information that we all have. And we have discussed that information, and it is sound information, and the board can feel confident in making decisions from there.
Trustee Delatorre.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Sarah, for being here. I just want to express my gratitude and reassure the community that SCOs is our partner. They are overseeing all of the districts within the county of Sonoma. And we have been working on this in partnership with SCO. They're not directing us. They're like Dr. Carter mentioned, a thought partner. And there are a lot of things we can work on collaboratively. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here, and your mere presence is a vote of confidence to the community that we're not trying to do this alone, that we're doing this with the right partners and the right positions in place, and that we overall are trying to increase the advantages of public education throughout the county. So yeah, I know you guys put a lot of time and work into to your positions, and I appreciate you bringing that to our meeting and to our district so the community can see who we're working with and why that's so important.
Trustee Caston?
Similarly, I want to comment, I think a part of this was at 11:20 at night or so, 10 minutes roughly before we were going to auto adjourn under our bylaws. We started talking about this information without really being able to explore the content of it. And having had the opportunity to go back and discuss it, and Dr. Carter, I appreciate your staff's availability and outreach. It was all information that had been known and had been a part of the previous proposals and phasings and contemplation, with more specific recent information that validated everything that our staff had told us. And I apologize personally for my reaction, and a lot of that had to do with 4 hours into a very tense meeting to question the integrity of the data, because what I heard that night versus what I heard when I re-listened to the meeting the next day are very different things. And so I re-listened to the meeting, and that meeting information was consistent with staff's information, was consistent with what SCO did in the probably close to 20 hours of phone calls I've had in the last 24 hours. And the integrity of the data, the integrity of this process is firm and solid. And the difficulty is in the decisions we have to make because of how much money we have, and in the compromises we're making for the quality of education that we seek to provide, and the hope that this is a plan that leads to better quality, better enrichment opportunities, with building in as much time as we can to try and phase it, not as much time as we want, as much time as we can to try and phase it. So all I heard in the last day was validating our staff's data, and that there was not actually new information. It was just how it came up.
Any other questions for SCO? Trustee Jenkins?
I know we've talked about it a lot. The community's talked about it a lot and we've talked about it so much: positive, negative, qualified, out of cash. But since SCO is here, can you guys please walk us through as basic wording and like clear, as crystal clear as can be, one last time how this works? Because it's scary, right? Like, we're on the edge. We were positive. Now we've got this deficit, and, you know, we want to keep local control, but what does it all actually mean? Thank you so much for being here too. I sounded like thank you so much for being here. That's not how that meant to come off.
Before I turn it over to Greg Medici to kind of walk us through this, I think if you go back to that original positive certification letter, in that positive certification letter, the Santa Rosa City School Board submitted an agenda, a budget that identified 25 millions in cuts. Those cuts were not named at that time, but there was no reason to not believe that those were being made. And so for that reasons, that was a positive budget. There was a plan forward. We're all now in the thick of things of identifying those 25 million. And if we fall short of that and we submit a budget that hasn't fully cut that 25 million that was identified in the positive budget, then we step into qualified. And I'll let Greg just kind of walk us through what the implications are for Santa Rosa City Schools.
So the state has 3 budget certifications: positive, qualified, and negative. As Dr. Carter stated, positive certification and specific to Santa Rosa City Schools would be associated with the data that staff has poured over, so that both in the current fiscal year and 2 forward-looking fiscal years, all of the financial data shows that all financial obligations will be met. From there, qualified status and the kind of the Webster's dictionary version of qualified is it literally means, and the state has a definition that is also pretty simple, but it literally means something has to happen so that, and something financial has to happen so that that positive status can be restored. And but for something happening, positive financial abilities will not be restored. And then that's where a continuing state at across kind of the 3-year multi-year projection, but pretty quickly and early on in the 3-year multi-year projection, if a qualified status is not addressed, then a negative status, which is the most difficult standing of a certification for California school districts, means that there is imminent risk and likelihood that financial obligations will get in such a state of disrepair that things like payroll and other core functions of financial obligations will not be able to be met. So all of these designations were put in place in the early 90s. They were put in place because a school district, there are over 1,000 school districts in California. One school district in the Bay Area actually was very fiscally distressed. The state had to step in. They set up a new criteria of these 3 designations. Since then, there's been over almost 40 fiscal years of 1,000 school districts. That's 40,000 school, combinations, and less than 100 times because of the diligence in the process of kind of taking seriously the qualified certification. Less than 100 times has a district kind of fallen totally into negative status, and even less so where a district had to receive state dollars to kind of continue their financial ability. So where Santa Rosa is right now, and the recommendation of staff, and again, to reiterate Dr. Carter's point, in December, the facts and projections that were associated with that December positive status were sound and valid. And then as the board is working towards a second interim certification, the board's actions will allow for staff to kind of continue those assumptions and know what is a permanent and real assumption versus kind of an assumption that was envisioned in the fall. And so second interim is the next certification status.
And just to land the plane there, multiple seasons of not having a balanced budget does result in local boards losing all authority. So, individuals such as yourself are no longer able to make the decisions for your community. And so I know that's why this is so crucial that we keep decision-making in the hands of our local leaders and rectify that position and stay as far away from state control as we possibly can.
Trustee De La Torre?
So I think it's very important for the community to hear that we are listening. We have listened. And if we move forward with this updated scenario, that means that opportunities have been given for you to step up and step in, like you said you were going to help our campuses and help our students and work collaboratively with us and help us provide the opportunities that all of our students and families need. So thank you. We're listening. We want to work with you. With that being said, we had a long night Wednesday night. We got some new information now. Are there numbers to this scenario, or do I just say scenario updated for the motion?
I have questions too.
Whoever needs to motion it, and let's get moving.
Thank you. I move, or we'll have more discussion after a motion, right? Yeah, let's get on the table as we're talking about the specifics. So I move that, of course I did the.
I'll share the screen together.
Thank you. So I move that LSC Allen would be restructured to provide programs with problem-based learning Project-based learning, thank you, everyone. That happened multiple times while this was being drafted. All right. LC would be restructured to provide targeted programs with problem-based learning, project-based learning, using experiential methodology, incorporating the use of university center, public health program, and public safety program. The 26-27 maps are adopted as presented, which will need to present. In year one, priority will be established for students to request a transfer to their 26-27 homeschool. Same process as stealing. In year two, the maps will be in effect. In year one, Slater and Santa Rosa Middle School will be closed and merged with 7-12 programs at Montgomery and Santa Rosa High. In year two, Comstock will be closed and merged with 7-12 program at Piner. And Montgomery will incorporate a 7-8 culinary and wood shop program.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, further discussion. Trustee Manieri.
Thank you. First, I want to say, Nick, thank you. I can't imagine how much work you've put into this. Thank you for listening to our students and to our community. Oh man, I thought I was over the emotions. I just want to say thank you. I know, for you and I. And I just want to like tell my, trustees that are new to this board, and thank you, Director De La Torre, for saying what you did earlier about old board, new board. That's not what we are here. I sat in your seats when I first came to the board in 2019. I came onto the board in 2018, late 2018, and in 2019, I sat in the position of having to close a school in my trustee area. And I voted for that. And so I just want you to know that I have a lot of, I do feel for the positions that you're in. I know it's not easy. I just wanted to say that. I was reflecting on that. Secondly, this sounds great, right? I think a secondary reorganization is a good idea. And I have a lot of questions. And so I hope that everyone can bear with me. I am coming from a place of, maybe asking questions that our community might also be having, and they haven't had the opportunity to weigh in on this particular scenario that's being brought up. And so I really hope that you'll bear with me with these questions. Again, I think a secondary reorg is a good idea. And I like this idea for like all of our high schools. I think it's really important that we do hone, and we've been talking about this, honing in on the specialties of our schools, because we can't do everything everywhere. I absolutely agree with that. That being said, does this plan, so going back to the finances for just a second, does this plan include the savings that we have been talking about from going from a 7-period day to a 6-period day at LC?
Yes.
It includes the savings. So that means we still go from a 7-period day to a 6-period day.
Yes, that is still necessary.
That is still necessary. Okay, Vicky can speak to it. I heard. Okay.
Pull the knob up, the little button up.
Okay. Let's see, can you hear me? Okay, so there was when this was brought up, I spoke with the principal from Elsie, who was able to work collaboratively with his union reps, and they did a straw poll, so it's not official, but based on the straw poll, is Catherine holding up the thing? Yeah. I don't even have to turn around to know what she's doing. So based on the straw poll, an overwhelming majority of the staff is in favor of reverting back to a 6-period day if that is what is necessary.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate knowing that. I just wanted to know kind of the full implications of this scenario. And I want to go to the boundaries. what what are we looking at? Can someone please walk us through what we are looking at when we're talking about changing the boundaries for LC in this scenario, please?
Yes, so there is a few changes. These boundaries follow closely what we currently have, with a few changes that I've highlighted with arrows. So there is a eastern movement of the boundary for Pioneer High School. The northern boundary from Pioneer High School currently is below 101, and it will move up towards the east. And the new boundary between Pioneer High School and Maria Carrillo will be Mark West Spring Road and Cross Creek Road. So up on the top of the map for year one. There is also the northern part of the LC Allen boundary currently is along the creek. That will instead be extended to West College. Again, for Pioneer will be brought back, and that little sliver of land will go to Santa Rosa High School in preparation for the collapse of the attendance boundary of LC Allen.
Sorry, can you just say that in preparation for the collapse?
Yes, so the idea is for in year two, LC Allen will not have an attendance boundary and will become an open enrollment school.
If I could add into that explanation for a second, the restructuring of LC will be a educational program format where we would still want to give our folks the opportunity to go to a comprehensive format, because this will be different because of the methodologies and curriculum. So similar to accelerated charter schools, project-based and those types of solutions. What would happen, and this is all AR, not BP, is that the transfer prioritizations under understandings, people can correct me, I got Stacy over here who's already looking at me. It would be that the students would have the priority based off of need, and then similar to CCLA's neighborhood boundary, the priority based off of residence to be able to go here, or then have the option and choice to go to a comprehensive program.
So neighborhood students would still be able to attend LC Allen?
Yes.
Can someone walk me through that process? Because I know how it works at CCLA, and is it like that, or is it different?
There's going to have to be a lot of polishing as we take a look at how we transition this. But similar to some of our campuses that currently have specialty programs on the campus itself. So you could consider something like Pioneer High School with early college magnet. Pioneer High School students serves the people who live in that area, but there is a large contingency that attends because they have applied and been accepted into the early college magnet program. So students who live in the LC Allen traditional area would have the right to attend LC Allen and participate in this specialty program. But students who live in what would be the traditional Pioneer neighborhood or Carrillo neighborhood or Santa Rosa High School neighborhood would be able to have priority to go to this program, applying like it's a specialty program. They would not displace the neighborhood students, but it would become an attraction to be able to participate there, like what we have with programs like IB at Montgomery, like what we have with ECM at Pioneer, or the ArtQuest program at Santa Rosa High. There will need to be a little bit of nuance in terms of the prioritizations, but we're already proposing those kinds of adjustments.
But so would LC neighborhood students have to apply?
No.
No.
They
So then
wouldn't.
how is that different from Pioneer? Pioneer still maintains a boundary. Why does LC give up its boundary?
It's a restricted boundary is what they're doing. The boundary's no longer restricting homeworks. Correct?
So because the curriculum at the school is going to be the specialty program, the students in Southwest Santa Rosa will have the right, and they'll be some of the only students in the city that will have the right to attend two schools in the prioritization. They'll have a right to attend one of the comprehensive high schools, and they will have the right to attend LC Allen. And they will have that choice with a prioritization that would exceed other opportunities as Stacy was describing.
And the reason that we would not want to propose a change in the boundary and the specialization and all of that in the first year is to give us that year to plan what that looks like. To come back with all of the details and make sure that we can implement it well.
Okay. I think where my head is going is thinking through all of the, and this is just how my brain is wired, thinking through all of the potential unintended consequences. I just want to be really clear that I will do almost anything to keep LC open, in potentially even voting on this. If it's not perfect right now, it sounds like we're gonna get time. However, I just have concerns, real equity concerns around this. And I'm hoping somebody can talk me through those. Like I can see unintended consequences that would not, like I'm thinking about the default, right? Like right now, students, some of them choose LC and some of them default to LC. And so now they're defaulting to two different schools, and that doesn't, I'm not picking up on the question, but I need someone to walk me through that.
Okay, I'm going to try only because I share your experience with the whole CCLA cook, and I feel where your fear is coming from. So I'm going to try and address what I think your question is. Okay. So different from what happened with the CCLA cook and the students having to apply and getting in essence, this would be the LC Allen School of Residence for all intents and purposes, because anybody that lives in the LC Allen boundary would not have to apply to go to LC Allen. They would just be able to go to LC Allen. What this does for students who may want to make the trek to another school is basically what we've been doing, which is they apply through an intra-district transfer to go to another school. It would probably be the same number of students that are already doing that. So I wouldn't anticipate that, at least in my thought, I would not anticipate, sorry, my phone is ringing, that many more students would choose to go outside of the LC Allen boundary. What this does allow us to do, though, is to bring a more project-based learning approach and focus more on some of the CTE programs and the university center, which will remain as an accelerated program at LC Allen. So I don't feel that same trepidation like what happened when we did the Cook CCLA. So that's just, hopefully that helps assuage some of what you're feeling, but I don't know if it answers the question because we don't know what the question is. So
It's not a charter school, so it's not the same process. It's different. It's more akin to a magnet type school.
Right, that's a good question, but not comprehensive, question mark?
As in, it's still, it doesn't, what that looks like is what we get to figure out next year, as far as whether it's called a comprehensive or an alternative or a magnet or whatever that looks like. It's more about the options that are available there, is my understanding as far as from that side of it.
The way I understand this is it's a start to put us in the right direction of what to build and envision. what I'm feeling from what I think you're feeling, this question would be, we do not want to build a program that becomes so popular and amazing that it displaces the neighborhood students. That's what we're talking about. So when we're talking about boundaries and eliminating boundaries, as we build this and design this, and again, we may not need to talk this all through today, but just to understand that moving forward, we're working on this, is that there will be a comprehensive version available on that campus for students to choose that. There's going to be project-based learning opportunities for students to pursue that, but that we're not going to build something that outgrows the community that we're trying to support mostly with that campus by applications overrun top priority of students that live around the corner situation.
I think what would reassure me, and maybe folks, like I'm seeing faces in the audience too. I think what would bring a little bit of reassurance is if we could develop like an automatic enrollment mechanism, something that we know, we can see it, families know. It's not just this nebulous, like, well, if kids are in the area, then they go to LC automatically. Like, I think we need a mechanism. And if we move through with this, that needs to be a requirement. We really need that.
That is the intent of this. There are several things that aren't in the motion that are intent because they're either appropriate for the administrative regulations or the number of hours needed for us to craft it in the board policy subcommittee would be, more appropriate to get there. But what you were talking about is the intent.
Okay. Then I'll just say this. Oh, sorry, Sarah. I know you. Then I'll just say this too, that I think we also need an understanding of where our students kind of the attendance area around LC, so that we do also understand who is currently going to LC and ensure that any mechanism that is developed is in alignment with that.
And if before Trustee Jenkins speaks, because this may be exactly what she's about to say, there is actually also an intent and a need because of the speed at which some of this was done for the feeder school district boundary maps to also be, there's going to be some cleanup here. And developing that understanding of what you're saying, and then also there's need to figure out the feeder school district boundaries, make sure that we're not accidentally cutting off like one neighborhood that we missed in the map development. So my understanding, and I'll let Emmanuel confirm this, is that there's work in the future.
Of course, and the attendance boundaries are a prerogative of the board and can be changed anytime, really. We don't want to make too many changes because it creates confusion, but we could revisit this boundary as soon as whenever we want next week.
Trustee Jenkins.
Related to the maps, I think something that would be really helpful. I am geographically not great, but whatever, however you want to say it. With the maps, it would be extremely helpful when we're talking about changing the maps to see what it is now with the layover. I think that would be extremely helpful, just so that like us as a board, as well as the community, can see what is coming ahead, regardless of if we're tweaking things. But it just makes me so nervous.
I agree. I agree with that. Sorry. Feeder middle school. That is a big thing, right? I think the excitement around LC and the 7 to 12 was we get our feeder back. So what are we doing there?
So my understanding from, we weren't proposing moving to 7-12 next year because giving a year to figure out exactly what that looks like. But the expectation would be that in that out year, it actually becomes a 7-12 program.
So we do get 7-12 in year 2.
Yes.
Okay.
So do we need to amend the motion and include that because that's not stated?
Yeah.
So uh, the second year too, that is Santa Rosa boundary. Yeah. So the, what was the original question? Feeder.
712.
712. Thank you. 712 was not specifically stated in the motion because staff needs time to develop the 712 program so that we could so that it could be we don't want to bind them with the intent, and so that was an ask, but I'm happy to add it to the motion if I get thumbs up from staff.
So my concern with that is we're saying the staff's not ready to add 712, but we're ready to add 712 to other campuses.
It's not about not ready, it's about developing the curriculum. So can we add it? Is everyone on board? Okay, I would like to ask my second, if I can add 712 to the motion for Elsie.
Yes, please, because I
Okay.
don't want that to get lost in the sea.
If we can clarify that the intent at this point is 712 in the second year.
Yes.
Yes, because currently LC Allen has no feeder program. And
Yes.
one of the purposes of this is to rebuild that into their community. So they have a localized 7-8 opportunity.
Can I just ask about this new program at LC? LC has a huge percentage of English learners. Is that still going to be taken into account and supported in this? Okay. Trustee Jenkins?
So many questions. We'll see if I can get them through my brain. I do want to address the Santa Rosa thing, though. Can we put that back up?
I'm working on it, sorry.
Oh, thank you so much. That's why I stopped, so he could take over.
Okay, so while you're doing that, a different question is, what are the numbers? This sounds really expensive to me as we're talking about it, and I thought we were trying to go the other way. So I want to know numbers. I want to look clearly at specifically, because I feel like we may be talking about two different, I'm not quite sure. This has gotten big.
So one thing at a time, if we
Yes.
can, let's look at the maps. So I pulled up the map that that I showed on the PowerPoint. Now this has in orange the current attendance boundaries. And as I was
The orange
saying,
lines.
the orange line, yes, sorry. So there is a change up here to the north where the attendance boundary for Pioneer Ford down here is moving up all the way to Mark West Spring Road and Cross Creek Road. And so Pioneer attendance boundary will move eastwards, all from those two roads. All the other boundaries remain the same. So the Montgomery boundary is the same. The Santa Rosa High School to the east is the same.
Korea's boundary is that big?
Yes.
Holy cow.
And then, as I was saying, there is a little flip-flop between Santa Rosa and Pioneer down West College that will create this weird panhandle for next year. And this is just in preparation for the combination of the Santa Rosa and LC Allen attendance boundary. Plus, there is this Montgomery High School gaining a little bit of boundary to the west, all the way to, I want to say this 101. And so those are the changes that are very minimal in year one. We try to keep them as close as possible, but we would like to set up for the new attendance boundary for year two. So this would be the plan currently for year one. The other thing that I think is in the resolution is to give priority for students in these impacted areas. So for example, students that are currently in these West College neighborhood, if they wish to stay at Pioneer, they will get priority to apply and receive an interdistrict transfer to automatic interdistrict transfer by calling the school to stay at Pioneer, right? So they are not forced to move if they wish to stay there. The only people that will need to reapply are us new students.
Just to comment on that, that is the same model that we are using right now with our elementary school families, because with your decision that was made Wednesday night, even though some of our families did not have their current school close, the adjustment of the boundaries to allow balanced elementary schools did change. So there are some families who, without moving houses,
Right.
adjusted their neighborhood schools.
Mhm.
We are currently working with our elementary schools to allow, because as we've stated at almost every meeting, if you are currently enrolled, our number one priority is to support your continuing at your current school. And so if there is a boundary adjustment with a Piner or Montgomery family who used to be living in a particular neighborhood, and now that impacts them, our goal would be to support, if they are interested, in staying at the school that they're currently enrolled at.
Year two, are we ready for year two map? And then,
Well, I have
go ahead.
with year one, I see a couple little pockets. I'm assuming those are just missed on the little colors where there's no color, but within our current boundary, there's no like little colors, like there,
Or,
are those just
So-
details, right?
no, those, when,
Okay.
our current, we had to transpose our current attendance boundary from a picture to a computer-based
Got it.
map. And it's really difficult to follow our attendance boundary. So we did our best to transpose it. But the colored one is actually our official school boundary as it comes from the state of California. So when we drew the original computer map, we had some errors that will get fixed with the new one.
I have full of concerns.
Mhm.
Santa Rosa. So Santa Rosa currently, that's a huge chunk of purple that would be Santa Rosa. And so by year one, I know purple is Piner, right? Purple's
Yeah,
Piner, but
purple
for
is-
currently right now, there's that big group up in the, I
This,
don't know how
this,
this is looking on Zoom.
yeah,
if you
so
can see
sorry,
it.
there is,
Yeah.
so there is this one
Mhm.
here to the left, there is this island, it's currently at Santa Rosa High. And then there is this other next to it,
This
currently is Maria
Carrillo.
Carrillo.
Okay.
They will be transferred to Pioneer.
Well, they will, but they can stay where they are.
They
if
can
they're
stay where
enrolled
they are
They are
by
through
calling the
their
school on
track,
Monday.
right?
Yes.
And so through their track, does that also mean that if there's somebody enrolled at Santa Rosa Middle right now, since that will be converted to a 7-12, that they are good? If they're at Santa Rosa Middle in 7th grade right now, and they're going to Santa Rosa High next year, and they're in this little Pioneer spot, can they stay at Santa Rosa High till 12? Please say yes.
Okay, so all transfers and I'll. We'll let Steve.
So what we would be doing is first and foremost, supporting the rights of families who are currently enrolled to maintain that enrollment. We are then looking at a reprioritization of the different qualifications for a transfer. And I'm not prepared yet to share publicly my proposals because I have to bring them to cabinet
Yeah.
before I start advertising them. But if it is a student who has never attended the school before, they would fall under the traditional priorities as they get revised. So, we cannot write a plan to guarantee that children who are not out of school, you're guaranteed when you get old enough to attend a school, because enrollment fluctuates every year. And we would need to evaluate each year the ability to accept new enrollment, because what we don't want to get to is a place where we have to say, I know that this is your attendance area. You can't go there because we've allowed too many transfers. So we have to be careful about that.
I do get that. And if we're talking about combining Santa Rosa Middle on Santa Rosa High's campus, and we have kids who are in 7th grade this year who are planning on going to Santa Rosa Middle next year, if now they're going to Santa Rosa High, if now with all of this stuff that's, especially the last 2 months or whatever, and we're telling them, oh yeah, Santa Rosa Middle's most likely going to convert with Santa Rosa High. And now that's a lot of whiplash. Like,
Welcome to
I
the
know.
work that I do.
I know.
Now, our Our current policy is to ask families to reapply every time there is a change in a school setting.
But there wouldn't be a change in the school setting.
That's where I was going. So we currently don't have a 712, so
that's
we
true.
don't
Thought-
have
I understand now. Thank you.
that built. Now, if by, board direction is, if you are already on a secondary campus as a seventh grader, you can stay there until 12th grade. We can build that into our transfer policy and get that set up that way so that there is no like reapplying to say the same school just because you're going from one side of the campus to the other side.
Yeah, I know it's a ton of case management to make sure that everyone's handled, but I think it's extremely important to make sure everyone is handled well through this. And each of the families, I mean, I know it's hard, it's going to be hard. And I mean, I can't say, let us know how you want us to support you, but let me know how for myself, I want to be able to support as much as I can. But it's so much change and I just want to make sure everybody's handled.
Well, and one of our practices is when we have addressed situations that are kind of large sweeping qualitative changes, like what happened with the redesign of the former Cook campus. For a number of years, we did not sit back and expect our families to seek us out. We went proactively to the families to check in because we knew that there were some families who would need some additional support. We would use through this process a bit more of a search and serve model to support our families because we know that there are some families who will be very proactive to seek out the transfers that they want. And we have some families that are going to need a little bit more of an invitation. We would use that same kind of practice through whatever scenario gets created.
Respectfully, I have something negative. I'm not meaning to be negative, but I have to say it, is that this is so much bigger than the transition. I mean, maybe it's not, I wasn't here, but this seems so much bigger than the Cook CCLA, like the search and I'm not going to say the right word. Thank you. I was going search and seizure and that's not right. We just got to do it though.
Well, and we have to remember that when we talked about the Cook CCLA transition, that did not impact Cook and CCLA uniquely.
Right.
That impacted every single middle school across town.
Right.
And so it was on paper dealing with a small neighborhood area, but it carried far-reaching impacts. We will have to do that same kind of care through this because what you have been working on, what our community has been working on for 8 months is massive. And this is going to take a full court press to do this well.
And I'd like to bring that to the forefront of the table that this is not just on us. So we can definitely incorporate and collaborate with community partners and parents and families to be part of this solution with us to make sure everybody's getting where they need to be and is comfortable and understands that. We have a very limited staff. We are doing leaps and bounds above what we thought was possible just to try and keep assembly of normalcy while we're making huge changes at the same time. So it's going to take the community to work with us, and we look forward to those partnerships and providing opportunities to work together.
And if I can address your question about cost.
Yes. Please.
Again, we don't have any additional money. What we have is where we free money up in other ways. And part of that is through that, why we know that in that first year, we have to get through with those additional movements, the rewriting of many things in our LCAP that focus on how we provide the extra services, direct anything that's above base service is what we need to identify. We have to say, okay, here's the minimum that we provide for everybody. And then anything that's above that is where we look at the LCAP, the supplemental and concentration to be directed towards the unduplicated pupils and how we address that. The interest transfer, the negotiation of the $1 million. And that's where we have next year in planning and knowing where changes in policy that the board will become, that will be coming to the board that will impact, we expect substantially a change in the out years in looking at revenues.
But
So-
don't we need numbers? Like we've been looking at numbers this whole time. We don't have we don't have a dollar on this?
We can pull up, it will be the same as far as we won't have the cost savings. It will be the 8.
So it would be
we
the
can-
331 minus the 1.
Correct. Yeah, it would be the
Kind of.
330 minus because it's that second year, it's that second year implementation. So it's in between those two.
Yeah.
Yes, here, I'm gonna let, to look at the one that we shared the other day. Here,
Yeah, because I'm sharing.
yes.
Sorry. The savings are exactly as the ones that we shared under the 330, 334 savings. So roughly are going to be the same, $8.6 million on year one.
No,
No.
because of the removal of Comstock.
Yeah.
Because remember, that was phased. That wasn't listed as a phasing. It was listed as all three. So it will
And if
take
we-
us a second to swap that out.
And one element of this is we are introducing, so what wasn't present in our previous conversation was an investment in a new educational model to meet each and every one of our students where they're at that we don't currently have. And so one of the things we talked about early on is where are we going to have the ability to invest in new and better things. And so part of this is taking is saying that this is one of those new and better things. And that means that we will be able to compete and attract students that are currently going to other programs that have a closer style of education to this. And there are multiple programs in this area and adjacent to this area that this model will be able to compete with. So one of the biggest challenges and everything we've been looking at is
Yes, sorry.
about what happens with cuts, and we have no ability to put into these financial models what we're anticipating for attraction. And this is giving us a concrete way to compete to attract students that are going to programs that we don't currently have the ability to offer or compete with. So we don't know what that attraction is today, but we do know over the next couple of years, because of students going to schools that have a similar model, that we will be able to hopefully start attracting them back and gaining back that ADA.
Trustee Kirby?
So I got a couple of questions written down here. The prioritization, the hierarchy for our students. I heard you say we develop it and take it to cabinet and then implement. Do we vote on that as a board?
No, it's administrative regulations. So we have board policy that gives us the capacity to be able to name those priorities. So we would not have to wait for a board decision to be able to make those adjustments.
But we can have board direction for that as well, correct?
Absolutely. And that could be guided with your work through Dr. Morales.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I wanted some assurances also from Director Oden that since you're there, I will bring you into the conversation, that what we're proposing can physically be done.
I guess that's the end of the cord there. I'll have to lean in. Yes, but what I see here is physically possible. Yep.
Okay, just wanted to clarify
Thank you
that.
for asking.
And it actually, by the delay of the closure of Comstock, it makes it more feasible for us to do that because Pioneer was where we had the struggle with facilities.
Nice. Okay. Good. I got some more, but go ahead if you want to chime in on that.
That one. I'm curious what happened with Pioneer and Slater, because it seemed like with a lot of these proposals that it was no problem. Like Comstock was the one that was under enrolled. Like that was the reason why those two schools were chosen. And it has shifted gears to the most populous of the middle schools that we would be putting on an unfinished school site. Like, I just want to, I don't really understand that. And it feels a little bit wonky, especially since we just heard on Wednesday that the building's not going to be done. I know that we have capacity on Montgomery, but the building not being done until October, it seems like so much in such a short amount of time with so many people. And additionally, at some point, I would like the Slater thing to get just whatever that happened yesterday. It's a thing up here, but
Yeah, so what happened was at some point, someone saw a slide and mistook the number of students being bused for what we were projecting the enrollment to be. So that, I don't know where exactly that happened, but that's where that number, the 340 versus the 554. That's where that number came. No, I'm talking about, sorry, okay, as far as the reason that we would be recommending and the conversation in this Comstock versus Slater has several things. One, because of capacity, because there's more capacity at Montgomery to take all of Slater than there, even without the building, than there is at Piner to take all of the 7-8 transfer. It just because of facilities capacity. Also, when we are looking at 7-8 options remaining open for another year, as the board asked for, looking at, okay, we have some space at Rankin Valley Middle, and that's on the east side. And if we look at the southwest side, that's a 7-8 and the transition for timing. We have Montgomery, Slater, and SRCS that have had conversations for a while about that at the administrative level about how they would work that transition versus things that were not happening in the same proactive way, at other schools. So there were multiple reasons why we believe that is the best recommendation at this time. And the difference in cost is about, or saving, it's about $20,000 difference. There's not a large impact fiscally in the change one over the other.
And I do want to add, because I can hear things behind me, that although the conversations have not been shared with some of the staff at some of the schools, the conversation between French American and Slater and Montgomery and continuing that French program all the way through has been happening for months. This is not something new. I don't know which schools shared it with their staff or didn't share it with their staff. I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the fact that the administration at all three schools has been working together to kind of devise a plan for this, because they've been wanting since last school year to develop the French program through Montgomery, to go from French American to Slater to Montgomery. And so once this idea came up about the possibility of there being 712, they already have put together a plan amongst the administration. I cannot speak to what has been shared with staff. And so that, but I do know that administration has been talking about it. And then in terms of capacity, Montgomery currently has a capacity where they could fit about 1,900 kids if they needed to.
Okay, and back to my last maybe question for now. Could we pull the maps back up again, specifically year 2? So I think there was some confusion, at least for me and maybe some in the crowd. There didn't appear to be a boundary between Santa Rosa and Maria Carrillo.
So I'm understanding the black is Santa Rosa.
Yes, that's correct. So the idea for year 2 is for Santa Rosa High School and Elsie Allen to share an attendance boundary, where Elsie Allen students will be get to pick if they want to attend LC Allen or Santa Rosa High.
Okay.
In order to accommodate that, there is a change to the north side of the Santa Rosa High School boundary in order to have enough space for them where there is, again, if you want to look at, this is year one, I'm going to, try to animate that. Where is the attendance boundary for Maria Carrillo will go into town through Still Lane, Lewis, and then down Franklin, I want to say Pacific and Braden. So that is the idea.
So similarly, will students have choice to?
Exactly. So
remain?
this change will just apply to future residents. Any student currently enrolled at Santa Rosa High and living in this area that now instead is gold, they will continue to remain with a phone call to the school, say, my attendance boundary changed. I would like to remain and finish up at Santa Rosa High, and they will receive an automatic interdistrict transfer there. This will apply just moving forward to new, I want to say seventh graders pretty much, because these boundaries will go hand in hand with the middle high school feeder pattern, right? And so, currently Pioneer and Comstock will share the purple attendance boundary. Rincon Valley Middle and Maria Carrillo will share the goldenrod. Herbert Slater and Montgomery will share the red. And in this situation, it's going to be Santa Rosa High, Santa Rosa Middle sharing the black. Whichever configuration the 712 model will fall. So here I believe Pioneer, Santa Rosa High, Montgomery will become a 712 combined campus. And at least under this plan, for the time being, Rincon Valley and Maria Carrillo will continue to operate as separate schools with the potential, as we said before, maybe in 2030 or 2035, if we have enough space at the Maria Carrillo campus to house the middle schoolers, we can also transition that school, but a space constraint there is really tight. So.
Trustee Delatorre?
Quick reminder, we do have a motion and a second with just one amendment added on the table while we're having this discussion. These maps, this is a lot of new information that we're just reviewing this afternoon. When we do vote on this motion, are we committing to these maps currently, or is that a work in progress?
We are committing to the one for next school year because we'll need to notify families of any change. Now, as I said before, all attendance boundaries are fluid and the board can change them at any time. So the year two currently are part of the motion, but there might be, line edits that we can make in the future.
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of community feedback, and obviously
Exactly.
we want to have the opportunity to be a part of that process and make sure we're doing things accurately. The next thing, if we're moving forward with this, I want to provide direction to ensure that part of the strategic planning for a 712 model includes the teachers and staff for some input, and we don't just build a plan and assume they're going to be able to figure it out. So if we can please ensure that our staff is involved so that we can get the minds that are actually doing the work involved and know what's going to work and not work, and that way they're ready to go.
Direct additional information on this. So the reason we're approving the year two maps is because we want to provide the prioritization in year one for the transfers. But we know, similar to the detailed discussion we had in the study session, where this map's actually basically, it is the map from the study session that we talked about for 4 hours. There's nothing new in it. But we know from that there are going to be individual neighborhoods, such as a part of the North JC area, and other things that are going to need to be taken into consideration as we move to year two. And to give prioritization opportunities for students in year one, we are approving the maps in order to handle those logistics. So thank you.
Trustee Manieri, question?
Yeah. And this is going to be several questions. I appreciate all this effort and compromise and creative thinking to keep LC open. I know that's That's why we're all here. And at the same time, I just really need to express my equity concerns. I have so many questions. I'm concerned that we're only looking at LC right now for this restructuring. I think this is all great work that we need to be looking at all of our school sites, not school, maybe high school sites in the future. And so my question comes just back to our liability. That's been something we've heard as a concern and even as threats. And so my question is, how can we avoid this liability, given that we are looking only at LC for this restructuring? And the reason I ask that is because we haven't done an equity analysis on the impacts of restructuring in Southwest Santa Rosa. I guess my question to that is, are we keeping our comprehensive curriculum on site? I have questions around, like, are we still serving our special education students? Are we still serving our English language learners? Are we taking those opportunities away by going in this direction?
Nothing would be changing for next year, and it gives us that year to determine how we make sure that we are making any changes in a way that is still going to serve our families and our students. So anytime that we look at a change, we can't just do something to special education students. We can't just do something. These are things that have to be done with thought. And that's why we need a year to look at what those changes would be. And that would be coming to the board for further direction and part of the strategic planning that has to happen with staff and keeping the needs of our students in our community in mind coming forward. That's my understanding of what our plan is in presenting to move forward with it.
Okay, so two things come up. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that that things kind of stay the same, at least for a year. They stay the same, and there's opportunity for discussion. I really want to emphasize that I really do think that regardless of whatever happens today, I really do want to emphasize that we need an equity impact analysis on how any kind of restructuring is going to impact students' public education access in Southwest Santa Rosa. And I say that because, people are concerned. They're concerned about that dividing of the LC Santa Rosa boundary in year 2. It's scary. Like, I just want to acknowledge that it's scary. And so I need an equity impact analysis done. And what was the other thing I was going to say? We need to do an equity impact analysis. And oh my God, what was I going to say? Okay, I'm just going to leave it there. We need to do an equity impact analysis.
So on that, Stephanie, I'd like to put that out there and figure out how we need to make this work. But everything the district does should be looked through a lens of equity
Absolutely.
across the board. So that's the direction we need to go. And it's not just focused on Southwest Santa Rosa. It's not just focused on specific areas, but every single thing this district does need to be looked through an equity lens on how it's going to affect any of our students. And we need to
Absolutely.
find that pathway.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think with everything going on in this restructuring, I think we, as a board, we can have that discussion. We can prioritize schools and communities that are being disproportionately affected. I want to acknowledge that LC is not the only community that is being disproportionately affected by these changes. And so I agree. I think we need to go through a process of identifying those communities. The second thing I was going to say, and I remembered, is we need an equity impact analysis, and I think we need a community oversight committee so that the changes that are happening in year 2 really involve the people who are going to be most impacted. We need an oversight committee of teachers and students and staff and community members, because these are big changes. They're transformational changes. And I'm not opposed to transformational changes. I just think that we need to be really deliberate and we need to have pathways for people to be involved the whole way through. And so I think those are the two critical things that we need moving forward.
Do you need those as an amendment to the motion, or is this just future direction?
Can I actually
Yeah.
suggest that with the strategic plan item we're requesting coming beginning of March, we have the equity analysis, because that would kind of go hand in hand with the strategic plan. So the first meeting in March, we'd have the strategic plan and the equity analysis there. And then a report on the committee, having sat on one of these committees that involves parents, teachers, and staff. And Vicki and I spent many, many hours together during that process. I know how thorough it is. And that knowledge is from sitting on one. And I'm one of the few people that's done that before. So I think a report on what that is like, because it is exactly what you're asking for, Stephanie. And, but the timing of that, I think, is probably could be not at the same time as strategic plan and the equity conversation.
Okay. Sorry, I have a few. Sure, go ahead.
And if this is off, then please tell me that it's off. But I would also like to, with the equity piece, I saw something that had it recommended to just change the wording of it to holistic. And I don't know, that may land wrong, but my concern with just having the equity, and it's not just having the equity piece, but I also want to, in addition, I want to really hone in on why people are leaving also. So how can we make sure that people are that everyone is, the equity analysis and why people are leaving? Because I think those things can go together because of lopsidedness. So I just want to make sure that that piece is in there. I don't think we're catching that very well in the district, elementary or secondary. And so I would like to see that included in that.
My understanding is that an equity impact analysis is actually kind of more of like a legal thing, and like there's guidance around that from the AG's office. But I hear you, and I think we should do that. Sorry, I have a few more questions just around like programmatics. I know you keep reinforcing this, and I appreciate it, and your answer might still be the same, but I need to ask. So what happens to the current school administration, leadership, the teachers? I mean, the culture that's built, like what happens with all of that in this process?
So I may turn to my cohort, my colleague over here, Dr. Zanz, related to, we are in a period of looking at all staffing and who's in the right place and seniority. And there's all kinds of things that happen over the next few months with our preliminary and final notices. Vicki, do you have, or Dr. Zanz, do you have anything to add?
I'll just kind of echo what Lisa said, which is that we're looking at ratios throughout the district. So this doesn't affect the ratios in terms of administrators, because it's by number of students. In terms of teachers, again, we're in a time where we have to look at everything, and we need to propose reductions. Like was said earlier, we're probably going to propose more reductions than we're going to end up needing, but we have to do that in order to stay in compliance. There's no intention of moving teachers away from where they are. So in terms of like moving Slater to Montgomery, it would be the Slater teachers that would be moving with Slater to Montgomery, unless those teachers for some reason fell within the teachers that are getting layoff notices due to capacity, due to the number of students that we have enrolled. But it's not a factor, the moving, it's more a factor of seniority.
Thank you. And I just need to reemphasize this again. We're not eliminating normal curriculum. No, the answer is no. We're not eliminating normal curriculum.
Next year, everything is the same. That's part of all of the strategic planning, is what does this new thing look like? That doesn't mean that it's that there's not any alignment or anything like that, but as far as what that looks like, I can't answer that today. That's what we need next year for.
Right.
Is to really determine how do we improve what we're doing everywhere.
Mhm.
Our biggest impact, and okay, here's a finance person trying to use EduSpeak,
Mhm.
which is best first instruction. So the first consideration for any of our sites has to be, how do we address the students in the class, what they're doing before we add anything else or look at changes? It's what are we doing in there first? And
Okay.
I look to my team to correct me or add.
I don't know. I kind of want to hear from Dr. Castro if that's okay. I know you're our guy on this.
I don't think that we should really be talking about curriculum at all at this point. I think that this is a conversation about boundaries, logistics, and fiscal. This meeting in particular. Anything having to do with the second year of LCL, and we have a lot of time to discuss that, but we're always every day we're in having conversations about how we can improve instructional approaches. And every day we're having conversations based on looking at data and listening to our students. I wouldn't, you shouldn't have any worries about anything having to do with this affecting our curriculum immediately.
Okay.
So yeah, we shouldn't be having conversations about instructional design right now.
I hear that. And I'm
It
also,
actually concerns me.
okay. I just want to acknowledge that our community is concerned, and that there is a concern that come year 2, there are going to be drastic changes. And if we approve this tonight or today, that we're, just, it's that uncertainty, right? It's just that uncertainty. And I think what I'm looking for is some sort of reassurance for our community that we're not going to end up in a place where LC isn't a comprehensive high school.
Well, regardless of what happens, I think every day, like I said, independently of what this process, we work every day in classrooms, like I said, to analyze and look at the practices. And we try to do that with the philosophy and the approach and the principles that it should be independent of this sort of thing. It's completely separate of the sort of fiscal challenges that we have to deal with. So we're in classrooms looking at what best first instruction is. So when we go to LC Allen, we're talking to the principal. We observe classrooms. There's a lot of great work going on right now. As a matter of fact, the instructional rounds that the principal and the administrators that are doing there, that's what we're focusing on right now. That's independent of this. We were just there about a week ago looking at how he's using the observational tool and the tier 1 academic agreements that LC Allen is using with his teachers. He's getting great feedback from his teachers. As a matter of fact, that school is an exemplar. I'm going to ask for them to come back and share in our next meeting in our instructional leadership team arc to show the rest of the principles, how it's done, actually, how we use data to look at best first instruction in classroom. This is stuff that we're doing on a regular basis. It's independent of this process right now, and we're going to continue to do that regardless.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Another question. Does this plan give us room to grow LC's enrollment if the opportunity presents itself where we are able to take on more students from nearby charters per se in the event they can't serve our Southwest Santa Rosa and Roseland students? Are we limiting ourselves in this plan to not be able to take those students if that happened?
No, this actually provides the space for us to accept students across our district where we right now, if the option were to be, the motion on the table preserves that option, what we were discussing the other night with the closure of any high school would have removed space for us to do that. And that's part of the conversation that needs to come forward in the future about board policy and those assumptions that we can or can't start including in our multi-year projections.
Okay, and my question was more specific to, you know, the high schools in Southwest Santa Rosa and in Roseland that are charters that potentially maybe one day might not be charters, and those students are going to need a public education option. Are we going to be able to serve them at LC through this scenario?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I have a question. I guess maybe not a question, maybe more of a statement, but I do want to make sure that we are also thinking about our students with 504s and IEPs. I'm not sure what those what that demographic really looks like at LC, like compared to other schools in or other high schools in our area. And I worry about impacts to their education through any kind of restructuring, whatever it looks like, just through any kind of restructuring. And so I just want to make sure that that we're taking that into consideration as well.
Sure. In addition to resource programs, some SGI classes and so forth, we have 5 specialized classes at LC Allen. We have, and it's wonderful that several students have spoken up from our SEP program. That's the Counseling Enrich program, 2 classes there. And 3 extensive support needs classes. At this point, speculative, but I would be hopeful that whatever change is occurring at LC Allen, that those classes would be able to be seamlessly incorporated into the changes and continue to be a wonderful part of the LC community, which has been so wonderful to those students.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we move on that question, because you asked about 504s and IEPs. So this also introduces a necessary educational curriculum model to support students with disabilities on 504s that need this type of curriculum and currently are not able to access it. And I do want to caution us on saying nothing is going to change. Everything is changing everywhere. And there is changes happening for the 712s. There's changes happening for the schools that are fully being closed. There's changes being made for the ones that are restructuring. So part of this change actually addresses the current need for students with disabilities that cannot access this curriculum that need to.
I appreciate that information. I do. Those are all my specific new scenario questions for now. I think I know there's a motion on the table, and I just want to say that before we do anything else, I really don't want to be in this position again. I know that things like you just said, Director Caston, are changing. You know, this is an issue beyond Santa Rosa City Schools, but whatever we can do to, and us as a board, and I think this is for us as a board, and we have to make a commitment that we are going to pursue every single option we have available to us to make sure that we are not in this position again, having to close down schools, having to restructure, having to put our community through this. And I think that there are a lot of ways. I just wanted to share that in the last couple of days, I've had many conversations, people reaching out, alumni associations reaching out saying, we can't be here again. Whatever we need to do, we're ready to do the work. And so I just want to tell this board that, I want to tell our community that, you know, this has been an alarm. This has been a huge alarm for our district. As a member of the previous board, I'm not trying to use that language, but I guess, you know, one of the older board members here, I want to take accountability, and I want to take responsibility that we should have been doing this so much sooner. No. And I'm sorry that we've put our community through this. So I just want to say that I make that commitment. I'm again, talking to people. People are ready to get to work. And I'm willing to continue that. I just want to say that. That was it. That was, I think, everything that I had to say.
I wanted to, because we got off on a lot of other important discussion, the savings difference is about $2 million. And I just wanted to confirm that before I said that number out loud. So again, as we talked about, that it comes from evaluating what our base program is, what can we afford to add back, what the interest transfer, these other items that are already on here. So again, that's where, and this again this is not included in that up here. We wanted to provide an apples to apples comparison from what we looked at the other day. So it's reflected in the same way.
That number is terrifying.
It is.
So I personally am going to step out because that is terrifying to me. I will be right back, but
Yes, it is a scary number. And the reality is we're all here because of that number. And again, worst case scenario today was we were going to vote to close LCL in high school. That is what put everybody on notice, is that we may have to lose a high school. And we found an opportunity to not close that high school and have time to reimagine, re-inspire, and redesign. So I caution the community. I know it's extremely hard to sit here and say, trust us and trust this district from the history of things that have happened. But I really caution the community of running down that rabbit hole of what ifs and who's out to get us and how is this rug going to get pulled out from underneath us. Every single one of us up here, every single one of us within the district wants to do better, wants to be better, and wants to provide better opportunities. And that is the direction that we are heading. So what would we hear Wednesday night? That if we get a 4% attendance hike, we find lost money. If we get attendance hike across our campuses, we find money that is not currently coming into our district. So it's where we step as a community. It's where we take care of each other. And it's where we find these opportunities to increase funding. We are public educators. We want to build and design campuses where students want to be. We don't want to just be the public neighborhood school that a student goes there because they need to go to school. We want them to want to go to that school. So we're here to build opportunities and build visions across the board where our students want to be there and want to grow. And that's where our funding increases. And that's where we're not in this fiscal nightmare again, because we built something amazing together that everybody's taken a part of and taken advantage of.
Trustee Caston?
And specifically to the numbers, and this is a part of the SCO and staff presented understandings. These numbers do not include what we've been presented with for opportunities, but these changes enable us to accept that future enrollment. And our very next board meeting has one of those items on our agenda. And we will get to choose then as we start to talk about things that are heading towards attracting students. So we have opportunities to change both sides of the ledger instead of remaining in a conversation that is all about cuts, and those cuts being schools. And so, next meeting is also going to be about cuts, but we start to get to have some of those conversations around attraction and revenue. This is not anyone sitting down and getting everything they want. This is a whole lot of compromise throughout this entire community. This is a place where we are going to have a grave responsibility to follow through and make sure that the end result is the improvement of our education and enrichment programs. And this decision isn't the decision that implements making those programs excellent. It's every decision we make after today. And I don't think those conversations are going to be easy, but they're going to be passionate. And this will give us the baseline to be able to move forward. there are many things that are also not in here. So this does not end the conversation around CCLA. CCLA is not contemplated in year one, and we need to go and negotiate with Wright and see what's going to happen. So, we are not ending the conversation about accelerated charter. We are going to need to have that conversation, and that is going to be upcoming. There are many things that we have to do to make this work. And to have this move forward, we need to have faith, because if we try to answer every question today within this one moment, we are never going to make a decision. And then our layoff notices, in order to not have Dr. Carter have more of a role in my life than I want, with SCO coming in, the layoff notices would be so substantial and so harmful throughout the entire community. And this gives us a path to lessen that impact next week. And so that's, I wanted to say that. Thank you.
Trustee Kirby?
Just real quick, I know we want to get to a vote here. I just want to go on the record and say I'm truly not happy with these numbers. I just want, yeah, I guess I just want to say that I feel, of course, it's very important for us to survive as a district. We have to attract and retain students. We have to attract staff, families. And in order to do that, we, as a board, we also need to regain the trust of the community. And if the community doesn't trust us, they're not going to come back to our schools. So I'm willing to, I think, it buys us a year to try to get back on track. I'm still not happy with the numbers, but I'm willing to give it a try.
All right, we have a motion by trustee Caston, seconded by trustee De La Torre. Roll call vote.
Student Board Member Zuniga,
Yes.
Trustee Caston,
Yes.
Trustee De La Torre,
Yes.
Trustee Kirby,
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins,
No.
Trustee Manieri,
Yes.
President McNally.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Meeting adjourned.